A lot of talk this week has been about how competitive the Premier League's been, and also how many clubs and managers specifically that have been sort of overachieving with their squads, the likes of Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth doing so well in the Premier League. So it did get us thinking about who is the most in-form manager, the best manager in the league this season, because it's quite a good debate. And we did have a bit of a debate ourselves about the best way to do this to keep everyone happy, and it is difficult. So we decided as a collective to look at the Premier League table as the fairest metric. So we can bring you the table now. The top half of the table, this is, with the respective managers. Paul specifically wanted this graphic because it does show Liverpool and Arne Slot at the top. Obviously, Enzo Maresca doing a great job at Chelsea in second, Arteta and Arsenal are third. You've got Nuno, Nottingham Forest in fourth, Pep Guardiola's City in fifth, Iraola's Bournemouth in sixth, Emery's Villa in seventh, and Marco Silva of Fulham. Now, they make up the top eight. We're going to discuss the top eight. And there's a couple that are very unlucky not to be in it, and there's not a lot in it. The likes of Fabian Hürzeler, Ange Postecoglou, Thomas Frank, Eddie Howe. There's not a lot of points difference.
So tight, then, isn't it? So tough.
It's tough. So I think it's only fair that we talk about some of the managers that didn't quite make the cut here. Ange, for instance, you're a massive fan of Ange, I know, aren't you?
Huge, yeah. I think just a victim of managing the most consistently inconsistent side in the Premier League this season. I mean, when you look at Spurs this season, when they do win, it tends to be 4-0s, 4-1s, 3-0s, a lot of good results. But then when the results aren't really there, they look kind of really off it, if that makes sense. But I feel like he's done his job this season so far. The problem is there's so much competition in the Premier League this season. It's kind of tough figuring out, and I always say that top four race always becomes kind of the best of a bad bunch almost. So it's going to be a lot of ups and downs, but you hope kind of with the cups they can kind of paper over the league form.
Yeah, we've got to talk about Fabian Hürzeler as well. Brighton, I mean, 31 years of age, they've had an unbelievable start season, had some big results. What have you made of Hürzeler's first season in charge?
Yeah, again, everyone keeps expecting Brighton to, you keep selling players and you keep changing managers. Yeah. Surely the bubble's got to burst at some point, but it doesn't. They keep finding the next ones, the next players, the next superstars, the ones who are going to be the big transfer. And the fact they've been able to maintain that level, I guess you'll be a little upset, and Brighton fans might be a little upset, but as you said, fair.
Yeah, as I said, it is difficult. And obviously you've got Thomas Frank as well, Brentford, Eddie Howe at Newcastle, the likes of Kieran McKenna, obviously, for Ipswich, who's massively rated as well. It's a hard match, but we've gone with the managers based on the league table. And we've done a little bit of a seeding for this. Do you want to explain how it's working, Joe?
Obviously, it's a classic bracket format. We've got the top 8 managers based on league position, but we've seeded it out. So Arne Slot first versus Marco Silva in 8th, Maresca second versus Emery 7th, and so on. You're going to go head-to-head, battles between the managers. One manager will progress all the way to being who we think has been the manager of the season so far. Importantly, this is based on this season only. Yeah. So we're not talking Pep's Champions League successes or Unai Emery's work at Villarreal and PSG. We're focusing on this season.
Let's kick it off then. First one, Arne Slot against Marco Silva. Paul?
I'm under instructions not to make this the Arne Slot show. Look, Marco Silva, I think he's done a tremendous job. If you listen to Evertonians at the time, you'd have heard he was the worst manager on the planet again at one point or another. But as is all with all managers who've left Everton, it's turned out they're actually better than we're given credit for. I think he's good. So Fulham, come to Anfield the other week and do a good job as well. So I think he's a good manager. I think he's doing well, but I don't think he's doing better than Arne Slot.
Fred?
Yeah, it's harsh on Marco Silva to go up against Arne Slot in the form he's in. Obviously, top of the league, top of the Champions League. But I feel like what Marco Silva's done really well is almost like this Fulham team, this band of misfits, if you like. He's really been able to get a tune out of them, and he's lost his top players like Mitrovic, Palhinha, Tim Remo, his captain over the past couple of years, and still been able to get a tune out of them. So credit to him. But
that's a great point, actually. The players that they have left in recent years have been key marquee players for Fulham, and how he's managed to not just rebuild teams but keep that level of consistency, I think is a valid point. But as you alluded to, Arne Slot is flying at the minute for Liverpool, so we stick him there. We'll come, as you place that, Fuad, for the next one.
Arteta
against
This is hard, by the way.
This is tough, isn't it?
This is a tough one, because I think traditionally you look at it and say Arteta, obviously, where he's had Arsenal competing over the past couple of seasons, but I think Iraola, since he's come in at Bournemouth, has done an excellent job, especially this season, losing Dominic Solanke in the summer. I think everybody was thinking, are they going to live up to that expectation? 19 Premier League goals he scored last year. That's a big gap to fill. Evan Nilsson so far has come in. he's delivering the goods. Enes Unal scoring free kick,
What a goal, by the
getting
way.
an equaliser as well. He's getting individual improvements from the team, but also players like Semenyo who are already there going up a level. Kirkes going up a level. So I think Iraola, to me, I think he's one of the most underrated managers and destined for a bigger job.
Ooh, interesting.
I was prepared to back Iraola on this one, just for the few, more than anything else, to be honest. But no, given that it hadn't occurred to me that you wouldn't obviously go to bat for Mikel Arteta, should have thought that one through. No, look, I agree. To be honest, I think Iraola, what he's doing, you know, the table's not quite there to show it by comparison. So look, Arsenal are above Bournemouth in the league. So, you know, if we're using that as the metric, then that should make sense. Arsenal obviously competing in the Champions League as well. If we're interested in underlying numbers, Bournemouth are right up there. You know, in terms of like their overall XG for the season, their XG per 90, they're the top 3, top 4 sides.
Their best ever start in the Premier League history, Bournemouth.
They're right there with Arsenal in terms of how they're performing. They're just not scoring the goals and therefore not quite getting the points. But I think Iraola's... I think it's an expectation thing. I think the expectations, I think he's exceeding expectations. I don't think it's unfair of me to say that Arteta is perhaps underwhelming on expectations
this season. I feel like Arsenal have regressed a little bit in comparison to the past 2 years. So for that, in terms of pound for pound aspect, if we're looking at it, I'd let Iraola.
I'm not sure Bournemouth Fan TV are all kicking off outside the ground at the moment, is what I'd say. Right. So maybe Iraola.
Okay.
You're going to go for Iraola progressive?
Iraola takes it, stick him on.
He has been brilliant, Iraola, hasn't he?
I think that's an interesting point they make about, because they're two top managers there, obviously two managers that know each other very well as well, but you've contextualised the sort of overachieving aspect of where Bournemouth expectation was compared to where they are now. Is I mean, 6th in the league. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Let's go to the next one then. Maresca versus Emery.
This is a very interesting one. I feel like Unai Emery, since he's come into Aston Villa, one of the best jobs, I feel, taking him to the Champions League for the first time in God knows how long, but the way he's got them playing, the players he's improved as well. But you could say the exact same for Maresca this season coming into Chelsea. I think start of this season, I'll be surprised if anybody predicted Chelsea to be doing what they're doing right now.
Absolutely agree.
Playing the way they're playing as well. I think the way he's managed the squad, the clear and kind of conciseness he's spoken with from day one, when everybody was saying he's got a 40-man squad, he let us know, nope, I've got 21 and it's 2 for every position. The way he's kind of registered half the squad for the Conference League so players are rested. I think this is how you kind of come in and set the tone, especially at a big club like Chelsea. I'm kind of leaning towards Maresca in this one. Despite the job Unai Emery has done, I do think there have been a tough spell of 7 or 8 games where Aston Villa really struggled this season. And you can kind of see Champions League is catching up to them a little bit. But
do you have to contextualise that, though, because they are in the Champions League and it is based on this season and what he's doing in the Champions League this season. I know that you're right in saying the form in the Premier League, but what they're doing in the Champions League this season has been pretty incredible, had some great results. And obviously that does have an impact on Premier League games with the games that have come thick and fast as well.
Listen, without a shadow of a doubt, I think you've got to add weight to both of those things. Yeah. And what Villa have been doing, it's like European pedigree, European heritage coming back to the forefront. Bayern Munich,
Munich,
100%. And so they're managing to compete. I mean, they're realistically a win away from the knockouts almost of the Champions League, which in the first season back in there it shouldn't be underrated. Look, if it was a public vote, the amount of Chelsea players who are sat at home doing nothing still, they might be voting against Maresca for this one, you know what I mean, to go through. But I think he's done an absolutely tremendous job, I agree. I think the expectation from most people outside was maybe another struggling season. Based on how it's going, I think Maresca's probably edging Emery.
Yeah.
Do you think?
In agreement.
I've got
Maresca. Okay, Maresca continues through.
Good debate.
I think this next one is maybe the toughest battle, isn't it? Because historically, Pep Guardiola we talk about as being, the greatest manager of all time, one of
unbelievable,
blown everybody away, won everything. But at the moment, it's all gone wrong, and Nuno is flying.
Fourth in the league, Nottingham Forest.
Nuno, of course, used to manage us, and we almost couldn't get him out quick enough. But the way he's kind of packaged himself at Nottingham Forest, incredible job there. Pep Guardiola, it almost seems like I've never seen him struggle the way he struggled this season in his career, I don't think. For me, I've said the next 2-3 months will be very interesting to see how he kind of handles this big season coming up. But I think, Nuno, you can't underestimate. I was expecting Forest this season to still be competing for relegation spots, in all honesty. I think so many windows now, they've brought in an overhaul of players and it's kind of been a little bit confusing as to what direction they're going. Nuno has come in, similarly like Maresca, we were saying, given a bit of clarity, made it a little bit simplistic, if you like, and now they're looking like a very kind of cold.
We'll go on to discuss who ends up becoming the most influential, but in terms of overachieving aspect, he's got to be up there as one of the most overachieving managers,
100%.
based on the thoughts pre-season.
He's got Forest dreaming of Champions League.
No, 100%, absolutely flying.
17th they were when he took over.
Yeah, and it's funny, there's a running joke amongst
Fourth
Liverpool
now.
fans about how Nottingham Forest live rent-free in Arne Slot's head because of the win at Anfield. He mentions it like every week, comes up in a press conference, so yeah.
Sounds like he's in your head a bit, though, because you mentioned...
Listen, without a doubt. So yeah, very, very... And again, go back to that heritage thing, you know, there's another historically giant football club actually performing in the Premier League. Can't say I'm unhappy that Pep Guardiola's finally having to go through some adversity in his managerial career. Great to see. I appreciate that this is the little graphic we've got on screen. They're based on this.
We've left that this season.
It's probably to keep Liam and Noel from writing in complaints. So yeah, no, I think Nuno.
In terms of Pep and City, though, as a Liverpool fan, how do you assess where Man City are in the title race now? Because you've seen, you know, the amount of years that you've been in the race with them and them go eight wins on the bounce, 10 wins on the bounce. How do you assess it as a Liverpool fan where City are now?
I assess it by sitting back with a big smile on my face
Do you?
and trying to restrain belly laughs.
Right.
No, it's honestly, I've lived this like pressure cooker environment kind of thing, you know, on the peripheral of it certainly, of you've got to win every game of football. It's been miserable. You know, we've been the most successful Liverpool team I've had in my lifetime, and it's been dead hard to enjoy it because you're constantly looking over your shoulder seeing what Man City are going to do.
Yeah.
If they've dropped off, and I refuse to write them off conclusively because that would be crazy, because they are the ultimate horror movie villain in that regard. It would be nice to just be able to win a league title probably with a normal amount of points instead of having to be superhuman. I mean, we're a long way from that, but that would be really pleasant.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I know that it's been an incredible time for Man City, 1 win in 11, but people forget it's Man City. Like, they have got that winning streak at the end of the season in them. They've still got the best manager in the world, the players. I think they're not a million miles off the top yet. I know what people are saying.
Do you think, like, do you actually see a world in which Pep is able to turn it around enough to compete for a title this season?
I think this season it's a job too big.
Yeah, maybe not win the league.
I think there are a lot of older players there kind of maybe looking like they're over the hills. The young players maybe haven't caught up to that. Guys like Haaland and Foden off form a little bit this season. If we're going off this season, I've got to lean towards Nuno. I can't lie. That overachievement at Forest, he's got them back in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Do you happy with that, Paul?
Yeah, go for it. Delighted.
We'll go on to talk about Nuno in more depth because he's made it through to the semi-final. So we've now got Arne Slot against Iraola. Should we come to the neutral in the room first?
I mean, with this one, Iraola is one of those managers who I think he's going to be groomed for a bigger job at some point, because the job he's doing there, I think he's overperforming massively. How far can he take this Bournemouth team? I think will be very interesting. Can he keep them consistently in the Europa League spots? It's difficult going up against Arne Slot, though, isn't it? I think.
It is. I mean, it's one of those where, again, you've got to talk about expectations and what's available. And look, I can sit here and say, look, the resources that Arne Slot, it's not like he's like, he's been handed nothing and he's woven something together like out of a ragtag bunch of misfits or whatever. This is not, it's not Major League. It's not one of those, like heroic sort of sports films in that regard. But again, coming in off the back of the Klopp thing, I think he's flown. But Iraola, look, I think he has done a terrific job. But look, I am biased, so it's not fair of me to say this, but I would be putting.
Do you think Iraola is like the next off the line of managers who are just going to be, like I could manage a Madrid, could manage a Bayern, could manage a Man City when Pep leaves?
Him and Thomas Frank, for sure. I look at those two as like good football brains, guys who know how to develop players, man management very well as well. I think you look at players like Max Christie, Tavernier, who season on season he's been getting more and more out of, and then what he's been adding on top of that with his signings as well. I think he's been great in the market.
People forget as well, when Iraola first came in, there was a bit of question marks. Should they get rid of Gary O'Neill? Should they not? And then he came in and it started quite poorly. But after that October, it's just been like...
and we're talking about this. This is about this season only, but if we're contextualising the job that he's done since he's been there, forget that he was nominated for Premier League Manager of the Year award last season, so he's been consistently good for Bournemouth pretty much from a very early stage.
Where do they finish this season, Bournemouth, under Iraola, do you think? How high could they finish?
I think they could get a Conference League finish, for sure, in my opinion. Compete for Europa League spots, and then maybe form when it naturally kind of maybe slides, I think, second half of the season. Conference League, I don't think they'll be too mad at that. A European journey, potentially win a European trophy.
Bournemouth.
I do think they still need some other of the big teams to continue to perform inconsistently, maybe to get there. But look, above and beyond expectations for him. But Arne, sure.
Go on then, stick him on.
Yeah, okay, Arne progresses.
So we now go to the other semi-final. Based on this season only, Enzo Maresca.
Tighter. This is
against
seriously
Nuno Espirito Santo. This is a tough one.
Just quickly on Enzo, I was raising this point before we started the show. Do you think it's underrated maybe a little bit how hard it is to come into a job with that much pressure, with a group that is so mishmash, and despite the fact it's cost £1 billion, just constantly labelled about this group, there was no output from that group, was there? People were labelling them flops, they were labelling them failures, whereas Maresca's that pressure is huge.
I think you saw it with the past couple of managers who've come in, Pochettino, Graham Potter. Yeah. They've come in, and two experienced managers, both tactically and in the Premier League, haven't really been able to get there.
I would say Pochettino towards the back end of last season that you were seeing a drastic improvement. If you look at a lot of the metrics of Chelsea last season, there was a big improvement.
The underlying
towards
numbers,
the back end and the underlying numbers.
You almost felt like there was always a bit of tension in the air with the fans in terms of there was a bit of discontentment, and you almost feel like Maresca's just come in and just kind of simplified it and gave a bit of clarity. He's clear, he's concise in the way he speaks, even the way he's kind of promoting youth players while still having this quote-unquote inflated squad. I think his management of this squad and the way he's kind of dealt with the fans' pressures and expectations has been brilliant. But we talk about expectations, and you got to talk about Nuno, what he's doing this year, because in pre-season prediction, I'm sure most people had them 15th, 16th, 17th.
It's a good way to look at it, actually. Obviously, they're both massively overachieving. Chelsea in second currently, Nottingham Forest in fourth currently. Where do you think they are based on where expectation was for both of them at the start of the season?
Well, listen,
they're both doing a great job.
Yeah, I mean, expectations were probably low for Chelsea, but then they shouldn't have been because of what they've spent and what they've got, the resources they've got available.
What they've spent is a big factor in this?
Yeah, look, it's got to be, because he's done well to we're talking about weeding out like it's some sort of overgrown garden that's never been. It's like it's like the Chelsea flower show, and he's choosing which are the best parts of it to really showcase. And it's but like Nuno Espirito Santo, there was no expectation on Forest to do anything. And actually the job that he's done there, and again, it's not like they've probably actually had a very similar sort of approach, haven't they, in terms of bringing loads of footballers in, and he's put it out, but it's not. They've not bought at the level that Chelsea have been buying. Nobody would have had them in there, and I think they're the team that you go, it'll drop off now. This will be the week when it drops off, and actually they had a little dip and they're back again. So I think he's done a brilliant job. But I think when we're starting to get to the business of it all, I do think Forest will probably sort of settle around the European places, whereas Chelsea could well win the league.
Are they in the title race, Chelsea, now?
I think they are, yeah.
Because they're playing it down, aren't they? I saw
they are, yeah.
Week saying I don't even know what a title race is.
They can go top, can't they?
It's the...
Can they win the league this season?
They referred to it once upon a time as the little horse season. I think this is almost like their little horse season, where Liverpool last year, they were in the race up until week 32, week 33, and if they fall away, I don't think they'll be too upset with that. But I think Maresca's doing pretty well in kind of playing the pressure down and just saying, do you know what? One game at a time.
It feels more like a classic Premier League season, doesn't it? From like the noughties or the late 90s, where mid-80s could end up winning it, the high 80s could end up winning it, rather than the 100-point total we saw from Man City over the last few seasons.
Yeah, I didn't know what you mean by that. Shout out Nuno as well, by the way, for the job he's done. Won at Old Trafford and Anfield in the same season for the first time in their league history, and led Forest their joint best ever start to Premier League season. So incredible job. But Maresca takes it. We're into the final. Judging the best Premier League managers based on this season only. It's Slot against Maresca, first versus second. Fuad,
this is so tough, and I know obviously Arne Slot's top of the league, but I think with Maresca, the case I'll make for him is I feel like two managers have come in previously and shown how hard this job is. He's come in this season and almost made it look very easy. He's got them now competing for a title. Conference League, they're pretty much coasting in that, and as I can't emphasise enough how important it is for a manager when he comes in to just be very clear with his direction. I feel like you guys under Ten Hag, that was probably one of the issues where sometimes in press conferences you don't understand what message he's trying to get across. Maresca, I even saw midweek this week, Tyreek George and Josh Achampong getting brought into the first-team dressing room, and he was talking about the standards he's setting from the dressing room and from the senior players, and I was like, this is what you want from your gaffer. So in terms of this season, pound for pound, the job he's doing, it's difficult. But Arne Slot is top, so
you've agreed a lot so far, but Paul is... I'm guessing you're not agreeing with what Fred said there first time this morning.
Nah, can't be having that. Can't be having Enzo Maresca winning this, can we? Surely not. I mean, look, the greatest compliment anyone can pay to Enzo Maresca is the Chelsea fans don't hate him yet, which has got to be a record in a season.
And Arne Slot, he did say, didn't he, in one of his press conferences, that the only team that he thinks has actually been better than them this season is Chelsea. When they played head-to-head.
Yeah. I mean, it's not got them above us in the league, which is good. But, you know, Arne Slot, and again, we're talking about expectation. This is where we're boiling down to it, is that what have they done so far this season? This is a Liverpool side who were top of the Champions League as well, by the way, and top of the Premier League.
And they can't rest their players in that competition because of the teams
Didn't
that are coming
sign
up
any
against.
players in the summer.
You know, it will literally, almost literally anyway. Great to see Federico Chiesa back, by the way. But yeah,
he's back now. Come on.
Well done, mate. Well done. He's real. It's great to see. But yeah, you know, through in the League Cup as well. Even though Liverpool have contended with loads of injuries as well. I know Arsenal are the only team that are allowed to have injuries this season and talk about it, of course, and Man City as well. But no, Liverpool have had tons of injuries. They've had the contract situations rolling on. 3 of our biggest stars out of contract. That's looming. He's managed to handle that spectacularly as well. Put some young players in the side in midweek and get. I am stunned by how good Slot has been, genuinely, because it's not meant to go this way. You had all the pundits saying, well, that's it now. It's going to be like the end of Ferguson, like the end of Wenger. You're going to have this drop-off. Nah. He's just picked up and actually, like, maybe say we're better. We're even better. We're tighter defensively. We're better structured. It's not as swashbuckling and dynamic in some instances, but I've also seen some of the best football I've ever seen.
I was going to say that. One of the things I think that's most impressive about him is tactically how in every game he can kind of almost adjust to the opposition, and it's not just kind of one style that he just hammers you with, but incredible manager.
Go on then. Looks like Fuad was happy with that argument.
I'll take Slot.
Arne Slot takes the crown. Paul is going to stick him on Saturday Social Whiteboard. There we go. Confirmation of the best Premier League manager based on this season. There is confirmation. Arne Slot with the crown on his head. Be interested to see if he'll have the Premier League crown on his head come the end of the season. Thank you.